is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And we think we got everybody in one way, shape, or form. Coach Matt's season is done as coach. He's back in studio to play resident driver. We're going to get things back to normal as much as possible heading into the final weekend of NASCAR season. We're going to talk about that State of the Sport address that came down yesterday from a couple of NASCAR officials. Got a whole lot more on that court battle that's going on between NASCAR on one side and 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports on the other side. We'll be digging into that pretty deep as well. Formula E's getting in their preseason testing. We got teams from several different series that are actually starting to prep for 2025. We got a guest coming up in hour number 2 that Matt's going to talk about here in just a couple of moments. So we're going to get things rolling here. You might notice I'm dressed in appropriate garb that is also black if you're watching CRN Live on YouTube. It's the last weekend for Stewart-Haas Racing, too. Talk about it next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
How this running?
And 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in as we get the show off running properly under its own steam. I'm Steve West. Coach Matt in studio. The coaching headphones are off. The radio headsets are back on. Welcome back in.
Back in business.
Yeah. How was year one of coaching? Eye-opening?
It was. We had our ups and downs, but the main thing and the main objective that I had for the entire year for the boys was to get better week by week, and that they did.
Excellent.
We should have finished. Let's see here. We should have been at least 5-2, but we had some bad breaks go our way, and we ended up finishing the year 1-6. But the one win was pretty good, pretty special.
Excellent. All right. We're actually here for racing, though, so let's get into it. Last Saturday, Martinsville Xfinity Series cut down the final 8 to the final 4. Not without drama. Eric Almirola decided he might have been done with racing full-time at the end of last year, but then he moved from Stewart Haas Racing back to Joe Gibbs Racing, where he ran a part-time slate of races, included both races at Martinsville. He won back in the spring, and after leading 150 of the 250-lap race a week ago today, ends up sweeping the year. In the process, actually helped deny his own teammate, Chandler Smith, from getting into the playoffs. Also denied Sammy Smith of Junior Motorsports a chance to vie for the title. With 15 laps to go on the final restart, Almirola pulling away from the field, bested his teammate Sammy Smith by just over a second. Chandler Smith in third, Cole Custer fourth, Justin Allgaier in fifth. Custer and Sammy Smith not happy with each other after the race. We'll detail that a little bit more in the news. A remainder of the top 10, Sheldon Creed, Anthony Alfredo, Parker Kligerman, Jeb Burton, and Myatt Snyder. With those results, the 4 moving on to battle for the title later today in Phoenix will be in seed order, which doesn't really matter. Austin Hill, A.J. Allmendinger, Cole Custer, and Justin Allgaier. Top finisher of the 4 claims the 2024 title. Plain and simple. Down in Brazil last Sunday, Formula One got things rolling a little bit earlier than initially planned on a rainy day, and that, well, the rain played havoc with the qualifying. It played havoc with the race. For example, Max Verstappen, horrible qualifying effort, qualified 12th, started the race in 17th because they had to change the engine out. It was the 6th engine of the year, so it's a 5 grid spot penalty. So, yeah, 17th. But he is one of the better wet weather racers, and boy, didn't he prove it. So it really wasn't much of a surprise. Verstappen carving his way through the field, rolled on to claim the win by almost 20 seconds.
That was ugly.
That was schooling right there.
Yeah.
You want to know how to race in the rain, watch that race from last Sunday.
Yep.
Bigger surprise might have been the other 2 that were on the podium. The Alpine twins kept their tires pointed in the right direction all race long. We talked about one of the main reasons why when we did cross flags this week on Wednesday. Let's just boil it down to weight. Okay? Flawless pit stops, which was a little unusual for them as well, and that kept them sitting out front, near the front, in second and third. Ocon even led some laps, Esteban Ocon, before Verstappen took control. Second and third place finishes by Ocon and Pierre Gasly kind of respectively jumps them up from 9th to 6th in the Constructors' Cup standings. We'll get back to that in the news as well. Verstappen, Ocon, Gasly, top 3, trailed by George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Liam Lawson, and Lewis Hamilton in the top 10. Lewis Hamilton, normally a very good in the rain or in the wet racer himself, did not have the car to be able to overcome it this time around.
Did not.
Verstappen expands his points lead to 393 to 331 over Lando Norris, so back up over 60. Leclerc's got 307, 262 for Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz 244. George Russell's 192, his teammate Lewis Hamilton 190. Interesting battle between those two. Sergio Perez 151, got 62 for Fernando Alonso. Nico Hulkenberg, despite scoring no points and not having a good day, holds on to 10th with 31. Bit of a change in the Constructors' Cup standings. McLaren continues to lead with 593. Ferrari has 557. Red Bull up there with 544, so that battle's going to be heated for the last 3 races of the year, which won't get back underway for another 2 weeks. We got Vegas looming large and then the 2 Middle East races to end the year. Mercedes, as we have said, pretty much all by themselves in 4th. They cannot really catch, I don't think, Red Bull. They've got 382, but really they can't be caught either because next up, Aston Martin, 86. Alpine jumped all the way up to 6th. 49 points now after a second and third place finish. They overcame VCarb and Haas F1 in the process. 46 for Haas F1, dropping them to 7th. VCarb is now 8th. They did score double points. They now have 44, so this is going to be an interesting battle right here, 6, 7, and 8. Williams got 17, and then there's Sauber. We'll just leave it at that. Then we go to the Cup Series. Their turn to pare things down from 8 to 4. Not unlike the Xfinity Series, not without controversy. On the final laps, in a long green flag run, Ryan Blaney, proving the class of the field, grabs the lead, but the drama comes down to who might be the last one in. William Byron's tires, well, his handling, let's just say, it wasn't really his tires, began to give out because he had gotten some damage. We talked about this a little bit on Cross Flags. Where was the damage that he sustained, and when was the damage sustained, number one, and what was the damage?
The damage that he had was when Ryan Blaney sent, and that's the best way to word it, he sent the 16 car flying up the track because he was driving not with his head screwed on. Mm-hmm. Yes, me. And knocked the 16 car into the 24. He hit the left front and knocked the left front toe out and caused some handling problems.
Yeah.
Anybody knows if something that you drive with a toe knocked out, yeah, you're going to have your hands full.
Mm-hmm. And he did, and it really, as tires began to wear down, as they do on long green flag runs, his handling went away. So when that happened about the same time, Byron, who was being trailed by a pair of Chevrolets in Austin, Dillon and Ross Chastain, he seemed about to fall to them. But then all of a sudden, the radios gave way. We'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
We did go into this in a lot more detail during Cross Flag, so you can check that out online right now on YouTube, CRN Live. Go check it out. Now, here's the thing. Short story long, because it is a long story. Byron, had he been passed by either one of them, much less both of them, he would have been out. Christopher Bell would have been in. So neither of them passed William Byron. They played blocker for him. Mm-hmm. Kept the rest of the field behind Byron.
Mm-hmm.
But Bell, who had not had a great day, ended up starting that last run from the drop of the green all the way to the checkered, a lap down, did keep himself the first driver one lap down, but he couldn't do anything else with it until Ryan Blaney got around, as it turned out, one Bubba Wallace. And then all of a sudden, Bubba Wallace starts complaining about a tire going down with how many laps to go?
10.
I don't care how short the track is. If you feel like you've got a tire going down with 10 laps to go, are you probably going to make it to the checkered flag?
Negative, Ghost Rider. Negative.
Uh-huh. On the last lap, Christopher Bell makes a dive bomb effort. He does get around the 23 of Wallace, but then he gets into the outside wall in turns 3 and 4. Instead of trying to get the car off the wall, what did he do? Hits the gas. That, according to NASCAR, is a safety violation. Remember the Hail Melon move from a couple of years ago? Back when that was allowed?
Oh, yeah.
That ain't allowed no more. They won't let you do it. You want to know why?
Nope.
Martinsville has a crossover gate coming off of turn number 4. And if you hit that thing wrong and it bounces you out and into traffic, it creates a massive wreck. Or, and I have to admit, I hadn't thought about this until Matt brought it up, there is the possibility you might hit it wrong and you might cause the crossing gate to come open and create a massive safety problem.
Yeah, that would be huge.
That's why that's not allowed no more. Top 10 officially, Ryan Blaney wins, trailed by Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, Denny Hamlin, then Byron, Dillon, and Chastain. Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano fill out the top 10. The 4 battling for the 2024 Cup Series title as of Monday were Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron. And then you got NASCAR saying that Christopher Bell had violated, again, that Hail Melon rule. They ruled him out of the playoffs. They vowed to go over the radio communications to decide William Byron's fate. Because, as we said, they got pretty mouthy on the 3 and the 1 car. They weren't exactly quiet on the 23 car radio either. We'll get back to all of that during the news because it's a lot more detailed. And that leaves things up to the NHRA running their second to last race of the 2024 season out in Vegas. Top Fuel Finals, Doug Kalita taking on Brittany Force. Kalita quicker off the light, but then he lights up the tires. That allows Force to cruise by and get the win. 3.703 ET, 332.59 miles per hour. Marks Force's first win of 2024, but it is her 17th of her career. Timing is everything. Dad John Force was in attendance. In Funny Car, the final came down to Austin Prock versus Paul Lee. Remind me who Austin Prock drives for?
That'd be John Force.
Huh. Good day for the John Force racing crew, huh? Prock had the quicker reaction time. He gets the win, 3.830 ET, 327.33 miles per hour. This win marks Prock's 8th win of 2024, 12th of his career so far. Pro Stock Car final, Greg Anderson against Aaron Stanfield. Stanfield much quicker off the light, and he rolls on to win on a hole shot. 6.606 ET, 206.13 miles per hour. 6th win of 2024, 14th of his career in Pro Stock Car. And Pro Stock Motorcycle comes down to Angie Smith taking on Gage Herrera. What do we say when we talk about Gage Herrera in the finals?
Don't count against him.
Pretty much going to pencil him in for the win.
Yeah.
And you do here, too. Herrera got the better reaction time. He gets the win, a 6.978 ET at 197.16 miles per hour. Win number 10 of this year and 21 of his career so far. If he can keep this up, good grief. Factory X as well. They wrapped up their 2024 season. Greg Stanfield pairing off against Chris Holbrook. Stanfield off the light quicker, gets the win, 6.983 ET at 193.05 miles per hour. Again, these are vehicles that effectively you can buy from the dealership, slightly modified. In other words, it can be an older body with a newer engine, for example. So, yeah, there you go. He, by the way, Aaron Stanfield, he does get the championship win. We'll run that down here as we get into the points. Top Fuel, Justin Ashley, a 44-point lead over Antron Brown, 76 over Sean Langdon. With one race left, these are the guys mathematically available. Mathematically, these could win. Justin Ashley, again, 44-point lead over Antron Brown, 76 up on Sean Langdon. Steve Torrance, 88 back. Tony Schumacher, 105 down. Got Clay Milliken and Doug Kalita sitting at 114 and 133. Still alive, but a lot of things would have to go right for either one of them to claim it. Austin Prock and his dad, through Fast Jack Beckman, are the only two who can claim Funny Car. Prock has a 144-point lead over John Force. Four have a shot at the Pro Stock Car title. Dallas Glenn leads the way. Aaron Stanfield is trailing by 53. He's 90 up over Greg Anderson. And Erica Enders, your defending title winner, trails by 111. Then there's Gage Herrera and Matt Smith. They're the only two that can battle out for the Pro Stock motorcycle title. Smith trails Herrera by 62 points. Now, again, while he didn't win or even make the finals in Factory X presented by Holly at Vegas, he did make it past round one. That means Aaron Stanfield's the division title winner, beats his father by 57. Lenny Lottig third, 63 down. Schedule this weekend actually began last night. It's a very NASCAR-centric weekend. NHRA is off. Formula One is off. Those are the only two other series that we cover on a regular basis that are in season right now. So it's all NASCAR, and it began last night in Phoenix. Championship race, Craftsman Truck Series. Quick rundown from Matt.
A first-time champion now graces us with his presence.
That's true.
And it was, honestly, what I did see of it, it was very, 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 very lackluster race. It was kind of quiet.
From everything that I heard this morning, and this goes to the guys who are running basically second and third as well, every time that they got anywhere close to the point where they felt like they were gaining on Ty Majeski, he just found something more in that truck.
He found another gear, literally.
Yeah, he found the way to just keep everybody at bay. He was by far the class of the field.
Oh, hands down. And then that resulted in him his first career championship.
Congratulations to Ty Majeski. Yeah, congratulations to Ty Majeski, no doubt about it.
Leading 132 laps.
I mean, this is a guy who, you think about him, he's been around the Truck Series garage for a very long time. I mean, he worked on trucks for the longest time before he got this chance to be behind the wheel of one.
Xfinity cars, too.
Yeah.
Corey Heim ended up finishing second, Christian Eckes third, Nick Sanchez fourth, Grant Enfinger fifth, Taylor Gray sixth, Caden Honeycutt seventh, Connor Mozak eighth, Ben Rhodes ninth, and Lane Riggs rounded out your top 10.
Real quick, this was race number one for the new Hettinger race team with
Race number 2.
Brett. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Race
They
number
did.
2.
How'd they do this time? They get any better?
Yeah, they ended up 16th.
16th. Okay.
They were in the top 10 until
figuring it out.
They were in the top 10 until one of the last restarts, and then there was just a big jam up on the restart going into one, and he played it safe and got out of the way and just brought it home in one piece.
Yeah. All right. So here's your final standings. As noted, Ty Majeski on top. Corey Heim finishes the points second. Christian Eckes third. Grant Enfinger fourth. Nick Sanchez in the top 5, 6 through 10. Taylor Gray, Rajah Caruth, Tyler Ankrum, Ben Rhodes, and Daniel Dye. This evening, and I use that word very, very purposefully, the Xfinity Series title will get rolling at Phoenix Raceway. It'll air on the CW and MRN radio. Starts 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Should be getting dark out there before the race is over. And then Sunday, last race of the weekend, Cup Series going to run their title race. It'll air on NBC and MRN radio, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Remember, NBC's got NFL football Sunday night, so they're not going to run much into the evening, if at all. As we noted, Formula One and the NHRA are off this weekend. All right. As is fairly customary, championship weekend, media all gets together. NASCAR head honchos give a state of the sport address. That's where we're going to kick off. Because
I'm going to do a little more kicking off on this.
Yeah. We got things to say. We'll just put it that way. And we're going to say them when we come back. Thank you for joining us right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Steve West and Coach Matt back in studio here. John has joined us. He is on CRN Live and controlling everything remotely. It looks like everything's working great, so that's good news. All right, real quick, since James brought it up on the chat on CRN Live on YouTube, said Ford going to sweep the championship weekend again. You said nope. All right, let's go down through it. What's the deal?
I don't see Ford going all three sweeping.
Okay.
I just don't.
So that means today or tomorrow, going to have to be a non-Ford. Where are you going? Xfinity today.
7-ball.
Going Allgaier.
Allgaier gets it.
Okay.
I watched a little bit of practice yesterday afternoon. He's on a mission.
Yeah. He did have a problem yesterday.
Yeah, but that backup
You feel like they can overcome it
That
easily.
backup car is identical to the primary.
Okay. There's two reasons why I'm going Cole Custer. You can see what I'm wearing, number one. And number two, he's been there. He did this 1 year ago at this exact same track. So heart and head both tell me Cole Custer. So I would say that 2 for 2. That brings us to the Cup Series tomorrow. 2 Fords, a Toyota, and a Chevrolet. So the odds would seem to be in Ford's favor there.
Yeah, they got a 50-50 chance, but I've got to push my chips in the corner of Jumpman.
Is that the paint scheme that they're going to run this week?
No, they're running Monster.
See, if they put the Jumpman logo on it, I might have pulled the trigger on that, because that car seems to win or be at or near the front every time they put the Jumpman logo on the hood.
Well, he's won in three different schemes this year. He's won at the Jordan Colors, won Talladega.
Yeah.
Monster won at Homestead, and McDonald's won at Michigan.
Okay, so you're going to go Tyler Reddick.
One Reddick.
Man, there's a part of me that doesn't want to pick him, but ever since he got in after the disqualification of Alex Bowman, I said it then, and I'm going to say it again. Watch out for him. You let Joey Logano have the door open, and he busts his way through. I would not be at all surprised to see that 22 back in hoisting the trophy. Whether or not he wins, it doesn't matter. You can not win the race, witness last year Ryan Blaney, and still win the title. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Logano is the guy hoisting the title again, because he finds those opportunities and he makes the most of them. And it would set a bit of history, because it would be 3 titles in a row for the captain, Roger Penske. And what a year for Roger Penske, considering what they did in IndyCar too.
Oh, absolutely.
I got a hard time looking past that 22. I got a real hard time. All right, let's get into it here, because State of the State addresses from the president, let's face it, they can be pretty controversial. Same thing when you're talking about the commissioner giving a State of the Sport address, and I don't care what sport that it is, but considering we're talking racing, we're talking about it from a NASCAR angle. And they did the State of the Sport address yesterday, several things detailed. Amongst them came the question of the progress of bringing in another car maker to the sport. NASCAR President Steve Phelps told the media that a 4th OEM, or original equipment manufacturer, is close to coming into NASCAR. Negotiations do continue to make a deal that is going to make both the car maker, not identified, and NASCAR happy. He said, quote, "Yeah, we've had a number of discussions. We're in different phases depending on the OE. Right now we're in discussion with several OEs about coming in. I won't get into exactly where those are and who they are, but we have an OE that is close. That OE has a buyout from those that are in the racing portion of that. So it really just comes down to the business portion, and can we strike a deal that's advantageous for them and for us? Are we the right fit for their brand? But I'm cautiously optimistic. But then we need to accelerate the other discussions, because I think, in our opinion, 5 is probably the right number of OEs." Back to that. Obviously, we're at 3 right now. We're a couple of years away. It'll take a while, obviously, to get up and running, but we're excited about it because we would like to have another OE or 2. So do our existing 3 OEs. They want to have additional competition for a number of reasons. So let's stop right there and let's deal with that. We have been hearing for how many years now, since Dodge pulled out, that we have been in conversation with at least one other car maker about coming into NASCAR, and how many times have we heard, oh, we're close?
That would be 12.
We pretty much have heard that every single year since.
Stop throwing smoke screen. Put out there who you're talking to. We're in discussions with blank.
Yeah.
You know, we got to make sure it's right for them, just like it's right for us. Stop throwing smoke. Like you've done for 12 years. Oh, we're close with another manufacturer. Who is it? Hyundai? Kia? Yeah, I mean, as much as you talk, it makes me want to think the Kias are coming in. Who?
Again, we've said this before. We don't have any inkling about who it is, but the two that make the most sense because they would fit the bill for the Cup Series, for the Xfinity Series, and for the Truck Series. The two that make the most sense are Nissan and Honda. After that, fill in the blank.
Thinking about it, I'm not so sure if Honda would dive off into the Truck Series. I think they would stay Xfinity and Cup.
And they might.
Which makes the most logical sense.
Yeah, because you can certainly do that easily with the Accord and the Civic.
You can. But the other three manufacturers want additional competition for a number of reasons. Well, the three that you got right now...
take some of the heat off of them, too.
It's an extremely healthy competition. From a manufacturer standpoint.
Sure. But we'll take the Honda versus Chevrolet way of looking at things from IndyCar.
Yeah.
It takes some of the heat off of them because you get to a point where you're building so many engines throughout the course of a year and you can stretch yourself thin. And Chevrolet and Honda are both saying that when it comes to IndyCar. And I'm not saying that Chevrolet or Ford or Toyota feel stretched thin. Toyota shouldn't at all.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars to build engines for under the TRD banner.
Okay.
And Toyota's got a big enough facility, they could probably build 30.
But for Chevrolet, if a couple of the quote-unquote lesser teams were to float off to, and we'll just put Nissan in there just for the sake of argument. Let's say it's Nissan. A couple of those lesser teams suddenly scoot off to go run with Nissan. That's a little less pressure for Chevrolet, and suddenly all of the things that they build and all of the attention that they pay to the NASCAR teams can now get a little bit more concentrated amongst the teams that continue to run that Chevrolet banner. Same for Ford.
Okay, looking through practice sheet yesterday with the Chevrolet teams that are entered this weekend. Chevrolet branded teams that are entered. You know Hendrick ain't one of them.
No. You're the biggest fish in that pond. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you know Hendrick ain't one of them.
Childress probably is not either.
Childress, yeah, he's been Chevrolet so long, I doubt he would have jumped ship.
I would think not.
Trackhouse,
If the right deal came along, I wouldn't be 100% shocked.
You know Justin Marshall said he'll throw around, if like, hey, I will listen.
Sure.
You know, he would. Spire, things rumbling that Chevrolet's about to make Spire a Tier A team, just like Ford took Front Row to a Tier A, and look what Front Row did this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Colleague. That, to me, that would be target A. That would be target A right there.
Okay.
Because you could develop a solid, is it super sturdy? No. Is it solid? Yes, I would say it's fairly solid.
Financially, they're stable.
From a financial standpoint, they are very stable. Develop your program there. Because you instantly got Cup team, boom, you got 2 cars Cup side automatically, possibly a third. You've got at least 3 Xfinity cars right off the top. So right there, that's target A for another OEM. If let's say I'm Honda. Okay, I'm HPD, Honda Racing Development, Honda Performance Development, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking, going, all right, which NASCAR affiliated team could I talk to first? Here, here. If I'm Chevrolet, I'm circling Kaulig.
Okay.
All right.
Ford's a little more difficult.
Ford is very difficult.
Especially with Haas factory team, which is what SHR is going to become, having cut that deal with Roush Fenway Keselowski.
But if I'm a second OEM, and you're playing kind of the fair game, you're playing a fair game here. Let's call it that.
Sure.
You're talking to your counterparts at Honda. Honda said we're going after Kaulig. If I'm Ford, call me crazy. Hey, Bob Jenkins, you guys at Front Row want to have a discussion? Let's put you under the Nissan banner, be the flagship Nissan team.
Yeah, because even though they may be A tier, let's face it, they're not the biggest fish in the blue oval pond.
No, that is all day, hands down, Penske.
On the other hand, brand new OEM, you become the flagship for them. You are the biggest fish in their pond.
Exactly.
That's how Joe Gibbs Racing became the big fish at Toyota, and they always will be. And that's what Joe Gibbs wanted when Toyota came in. He wanted to be the big fish in the big pond.
Or, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, dare I say, I may circle Rick Ware.
Yeah.
Because you see the level Rick Ware is dang near all in committed wherever he drops a lift gate at to drop whatever he's going to drop off.
We'll give him that.
He's going for it.
The performance hasn't been there up until this year. We started to actually see some flickers out of them that they might actually figure out how to get that car to perform with Justin Haley. But guess who's gone?
Yeah, Justin Haley's out of there. But from the NHRA side of it, he's very well established over there.
Sure.
I mean, when you win the U.S. Nationals with Clay Milligan, you're established.
Yeah.
But I would circle either Kaulig, Front Row, or Rick Ware if I'm one of the new manufacturers, because you got yourself separated and you're in your own world over there, and you could take a team and develop it up.
All right. Point number 2. What happened in Martinsville last weekend? Chief Operating Officer Steve O'Donnell said, and I'm just going to quote him here, okay? Quote, "What I saw pissed me off." Says that a call with the OEMs this week, NASCAR is very clear on its expectations that a rule is going to be put in place over the offseason that would allow NASCAR to directly penalize OEMs.
All right, I want to throw the flag here.
He did not, by the way, he did not detail what that fine might look, or what penalty that might be.
How could you penalize an OEM?
He's apparently feeling like pressure came down from Chevrolet down through Richard Childress Racing and down through Trackhouse Racing for them to tell Austin Dillon and Ross Chastain, don't pass the 24.
And when I saw that happen, I immediately knew that had Jim Campbell wrote all over it. Jim Campbell, the head of Chevrolet Motorsports.
So
that was Jim Campbell's hands all over that.
That has to be what they're referring to.
Yeah. But how did you penalize the OEM, though?
That's the question. And I don't know.
It makes no sense to say, well, we penalize the OEM. How? You're going to say, oh, we're going to find, what's some money. You finding you.
It's a fantastic thing to come out and say, but I'll be real honest with you. I'm like you. I don't know how that penalty is going to come about. I don't know what it looks like.
It makes no sense.
So that'll be a thing that we're going to be following a lot throughout the course of this season. As for the drivers, what they might expect in the future in regards to similar situations to Martinsville, there's set to be a special meeting with the drivers today as we air live. The drivers will be clear after it's over. They said that the post-Martinsville penalties are really a warning and that the penalties will only get stiffer for fixing, quote-unquote, races in the future. Problem there?
Yeah, I have a problem there.
All right.
Problem is there. Here's how, and I said this on Cross Flags Wednesday, how you immediately deter this from happening. You don't fine or suspend crew chief. You don't fine or suspend the competition director, because they're not the ones with things in control. The ones that you penalize and the ones that you fine The ones that you suspend and you fine. One, spotter. Okay, I said this Wednesday. The problem with this entire thing is the spotter.
Okay.
The spotter does not need to be sitting there relaying, oh, so-and-so's down by 5 points. Okay, Steve's only down by 3 points, but you're up by 3 points. You can't lose 3 spots and Steve come up and tie you because Steve will beat you on the tiebreaker. Your job is to tell me car high, car low, crash here, crash there. I don't want to know any of that garbage because I need to know what you're seeing that I can't see while I got my hands in control of that 3,700-pound car.
Okay.
Secondly, you place an immediate deterrence in every bit of this if you suspend the driver.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why.
Because in the end,
you've got control of the car.
You're the person behind the wheel.
And the wheel.
I mean, using your particular way of looking at it, if your spotter cues your radio and you're the driver, in the end, you're the person who's got to figure out what to do with the information that you've been given.
Bingo.
And if you choose to not pass me and allow me to get into the playoffs,
that's on me.
Ultimately, that's on you.
That's on me. That's on me.
Especially if you had a car that, let's just use the example from last weekend. We saw Austin Dillon. We saw Ross Chastain both catching William Byron in a hurry. They should not have had any problem getting around William Byron at all.
Yeah, and you just don't immediately catch him that quick and then stop and run double file formation for that amount of time. And when it is clearly evident, you're blocking.
That was visual to anybody who knows anything about it. That was visually a cue to both Matt and I, certainly, and probably to the vast majority of the people that listen to this show or watch it on CRN Live on YouTube, that, yeah, they were playing blocker. Because if they were running full, all out, 100%, they should have gotten by him.
Yep.
There's more to this coming up. We'll take a break and get into it next because they talked about the damaged vehicle policy, the DVP, which has reared its ugly head a couple of times here over really nothing much more than flat tires. And it's created some controversy as well. They say they want to figure out a way to clear it up.
Yeah.
So far, we're as clear as mud. State of the Sport commentary continues after we take this break right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, teachers and athletes.
go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
All right, talking state of the sport address yesterday. Steve O'Donnell, Steve Phelps sitting there in front of the media talking about this before all the action began last night in the Truck Series. We've dealt with a couple of issues. They continued on. The damaged vehicle policy, which really seems to have been very unevenly applied throughout the season. Steve O'Donnell said this, quote, though really no fault of trying to save the industry money, we created a challenge in terms of how we officiate. Okay, we're in agreement so far.
Yeah. Latter half of statement. Very true.
Nailed it. He continued, though, quote, I think one of the biggest things you want to do is how we continue to use technology in real time to notice what may or may not be occurring on the track and address that as soon as possible. But I don't believe we have an officiating issue at all.
Lord have mercy, Jesus.
Okay, wait a minute. Are we playing politician here? You just said we created a challenge in terms of how we officiate, but you're going to say that we don't have an officiating issue at all? By all means, Matt, take over. I'll let you go.
I'll let you finish.
All right. The finishing of the quote, I think we have the best and the brightest in the business. Yes, we make mistakes. They're humans. Hopefully, we will never get to just AI making calls, but we will make adjustments.
All right.
I don't even know why you're bringing AI into it in the first place.
Yeah. The minute you bring AI into making calls, your sport is dead.
Yeah, don't
dead.
Do that.
Okay. All right. And gentlemen, here's where the tee box and soapbox is clearly dusted off, and I'm about to go Happy Gilmore 3 on this one. You use technology. All right. And the clearest point where we've had this point of view at is at Darlington, where all of the cameras for pit road are set up directly in front of us where we're at.
Sure.
Okay. Secondly, you've got the cameras. About the only thing you can remotely get right anymore is a pit road call. I'll give you that. It hurt to give you that, but I'll give you that. But you don't have an officiating issue at all. All right. The issue at Martinsville that you had took you 28 minutes after the checkered flag flew until you make a call, and it was down to as simple as a safety violation. When it was that to start with.
Yeah.
Because if Christopher Bell had not, when he hit the wall, if he had not have gassed the car up and rode the wall, this would never be an issue. And
I said that. I was typing that in a text to you before he hit the start-finish line. I went, here's the Hail Melon.
Yeah.
Here's Christopher Bell's Hail Melon move. That was being typed up before he hit the start-finish line. I saw it before the race ended.
Yeah. But you don't have anybody else, any of the other officials that rarely go in front of a camera or behind a microphone on a radio to take accountability for what happened. You put your bell cow, Elton Sawyer, out there, and Elton Sawyer sometimes stumbles over his own feet when he's trying to, this, or that, when you immediately know that's garbage. No. That's incorrect. You have an officiating issue because you've created an officiating issue. The officiating issue is the inconsistency in calling and making decisions.
Witness the tire situations that we were dealing with.
The tire situations. Cars who could be towed back and worked on after the gigantic crash at Talladega.
Yeah. Or cars that all they needed to have was tires changed out.
Exactly.
But you took them behind the wall anyway, which what does that do? Ends their day.
Exactly. You created an officiating issue because there's an inconsistency in officiating and making calls. But the day you bring AI into making calls, this sport is dead.
Yeah. The only thing, if you want to do this, and this is kind of that deal that Formula One's doing, where they're trying to watch out for cars that go over the track limits. If you want to put a camera out there that throws an alert to two people or a group of people that are sitting in a trailer wherever in the world that they happen to be, we'll just say it's you and me, it'll throw up a red flag to one of us. We'll go back, we'll look at the video and go, yeah, that was actually exceeding track limits, or no, that wasn't, continue on.
Right.
You want to do that at a Daytona, Talladega. You want to do that at Atlanta. Not that you have to worry about it, but, if you want to do it on restarts at all of the tracks that you go to, just to make sure that nobody steps out of line, fine. Past that, AI really doesn't have a place in this.
No. But when you got away from having track spotters, actual eyes on inside the track and outside the track looking at same areas, reason I say that is because I know this used to be the case. Keyword used to be. You've got to have sets of eyes physically watching things that a camera may or may not can see.
Or may not throw a red flag up
on.
Or
may not throw a flag up on. You've got to get back to that and to where these trash cautions, that's a nice way of saying it. The trash cautions to get thrown for, so-and-so slid up at the track. Oh, caution. But he's still rolling.
Yeah.
All four fenders are on the car. All the tires are up. But we throw a caution. For what?
Yeah.
What warranted the caution?
And then you waited.
Paint flake?
Then you waited 15, 20 seconds for a car that was buried underneath a tire barrier.
And throw the caution right at the start-finish line before the white flag was officially taken.
Yeah.
You can stop all of this manufactured drama easily by going back to basics. But there's three of us individuals that have a saying that we've been saying since 2020. They have a very good ability to try to fix what's not broken.
Leave it alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Period. As for the Gen 7 car, Steve O'Donnell said, quote, "It's been a game changer in terms of who can come into the sport. We can compete at a high level, who has access to different parts and pieces. So we continue to look at that as a huge positive for the sport." Noted the parity that this car has brought into the sport, citing the 18 different winners from 10 different Cup Series organizations this year alone. Noted that 3 of the closest finishes in NASCAR's history of electronic scoring, which goes back to 1993, occurred this year. He also praised Goodyear's work for bringing in the softer compound tires, which we've seen at North Wilkesboro and Richmond, and an even softer compound right side tire that went on, left side tire.
It's all the way around.
Yeah, but they did the switch last week at Martinsville where the right side tires were the regular soft compound that we'd seen, but they even made a softer compound tire for the left side just to try to make the wear a little bit more even.
Right.
And I will go so far as to give Goodyear credit for that.
They've gotten better. They have gotten better. Through a lot of pressure, but they've gotten better.
So I'll give them credit for that. That's fine. The Gen 7 car?
No. I'm not going that far yet. Because...
A huge positive?
No, I would go... You still haven't fixed the issue at the short tracks.
No.
To which it is going to be painful to watch it. Because by my definition, Phoenix is considered a short track to me.
And it runs like one. Yeah, it runs like one.
Short track.
There's no doubt about it. It does.
I've grown and caught myself listening more and more to Denny Hamlin's Monday deal that he does on Dirty Mo Media.
Mm-hmm. Action's detrimental.
And I've said this before on both of our platforms. Justin Marks has been considered by me as, in a positive manner, one of the most dangerous car owners in the sport.
Mm-hmm. I could agree with that.
Denny Hamlin is nipping right at his heels in my book. From a car owner standpoint, him and Justin Marks are right there. From a business savvy, business smart, however you want to call it, level. Denny Hamlin is a very, very smart business person. He's very attentive to what goes on. But multiple times on that platform, he has said it costs a minimum $300,000 to put a Gen 7 car on the track.
Sorry.
The Gen 6 cars.
We're not starting up a team anytime too soon.
Gen 6 cars.
Not at that money.
Gen 6 cars around the $150,000 mark. If I'm a car owner or somebody looking to break into Cup, and I've got a Gen 6 platform versus a Gen 7 platform, which platform do you think I'm going to go on first? Because it's more cost effective, the Gen 6 platform. And it's why it has baffled me to no end of why the field for ARCA cars are not bigger than they are. Because you've essentially got the obsolete Cup chassis that you have done modifications to fit the ARCA template and the rule book. You're essentially running Gen 6 bodies. You're running a spec engine that is approximately $45,000 to a Cup engine that is well over $100,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is the field not any bigger?
Yeah.
It's beyond me.
That's the place
That'd
to
be
start.
the place
right
I'd go start.
Sure. Lord knows we can't afford to go Cup Series racing.
Yeah, if I'm going that, no, I'm not going Cup Series racing for a while.
As for attendance and television viewership, they noted a good number of sellouts this season. Didn't say exactly how many, just said it was in the double digits, including this weekend's season finale at Phoenix. They said attendance at the tracks is ticking back up over the past 3 seasons as a whole. Believe that the additions of Bowman Gray Stadium and Mexico City are expected to be sellouts. Here's the one that's going to get under my nerves right here. And that Richmond is expected to likely be a sellout too. Don't forget, they dropped Richmond from 2 races this year to 1 race next year. But yet, you're optimistic that they're going to sell out. Well, that's a good reason to drop them down from 2 races to 1, isn't it?
Why?
Mexico City, I could potentially see as a sellout. I could. Bowman Gray is one of those deals where I could see it as a sellout year 1.
Mexico City sold an Xfinity race out.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I say, yeah, I could see this. Bowman Gray, I see it as a sellout in year 1 because you're returning to the historic Bowman Gray Stadium and everybody wants to be there. It was kind of like last year when they brought the All-Star race to North Wilkesboro. Can you continue to do it year after year after year?
The telltale sign for me is going to be what level of pricing is the tickets.
Yes.
They stretch it so far, and it's like, what the heck?
And that was NASCAR's problem when they were expanding. Well, and with really all the tracks, when they were starting to expand out the grandstands just willy-nilly because, you know, we were 80s and 90s, and it was the height of the ultimate first round of popularity for NASCAR. Let's assume that there is another round coming. That was the height of the popularity. So all of these tracks started expanding out their grandstands to the point where Bristol has 160,000 seats. Well, guess what? They don't sell out now at Bristol, 160,000 seats. So you've got, yes, you're improving it, but when Talladega redid the grandstands to get more comfortable, wider seats in there, it also lessened the grandstand population from, 120, 125, down to a little over 100,000?
I think the permanent seating is like 78,000.
Okay. And a good portion of that was because, yes, they improved the seats that you sit in.
Yeah.
But again, it dropped down your capacity for ultimately seating. We've been seeing how Dover has been blocking off entire sections. We've seen where grandstands are coming back down. You got to find that level, and maybe we finally found it.
Yeah.
Maybe. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that when you were selling all those out, you're like, well, the market can handle it, so here comes a price increase. Well, let's do it again because we still sold out. Oh, still sold out. Do it again. Now all of a sudden we're not selling out. We have been slowly but surely either keeping the ticket set prices where they've been or dropping them back down and finding where that level is where the market will stand it. That is capitalism at its best, boys and girls. Supply and demand. If there's too much supply and not enough demand, the price has to come down. And they finally figured that part of it out.
Since it's now time for us to put the cross flags in the air.
Yeah. We're about the midway point.
I'll say this. If They cannot sell out Bowman Gray Stadium week after week after week after year after year after year.
Should be able to.
With only a capacity of 17,000, you have a catastrophic problem.
But here's the warning on that. Limited seating means you think you might be able to charge a little bit more because of the demand. Year one, you can get away with that. Year one, you can get away with that because it's a first in a long time. Going back to what, 1971?
Yep.
You can't continue to do it because sooner or later people will go, I'm not willing to pay that anymore.
Exactly.
Figure it out, NASCAR. Figure it out.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
At the Tractor Place.
Cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Still talking State of the Sport address that was given out yesterday by Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps, head honchos up at NASCAR. And another thing that they talked about, so we just got done talking about attendance at the tracks. What about their broadcast partners? Despite several rain-delayed races, ratings for Fox and NBC, they say, were up in 2023. Phelps added this, quote, "What does that say? To me, it says the sport is resilient and the sport is growing," quote unquote. He also noted he's looking forward to working with the CW network on Xfinity Series coverage. Noted Xfinity, by the way, has signed on to return as that series title sponsor. He's also looking forward to the additions of Amazon Prime and TNT. Said that all media partners, Fox, NBC, Amazon Prime, and TNT, have agreed to help promote the Daytona 500, even though Fox Network has the rights to air it.
Why have we not seen NBC promoting it yet?
Yeah, we've seen Fox promote it.
CW has not promoted it yet.
And well,
Bluff.
he didn't mention CW as far as promoting the Daytona 500 because they cover Xfinity. Basically, he's saying all their Cup Series television partners have agreed they're going to help promote the Daytona 500. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, buddy.
We'll find out. Scheduling. What about the future of where we go racing? Steve O'Donnell says he sees little change in the diversity of the tracks coming up. He likes the mix that we currently have of the number of road courses, short tracks, intermediate, and super speedways. While NASCAR adds that they like what Phoenix has to offer, he noted several tracks have expressed an interest in hosting Championship Weekend. He specifically named these tracks: Darlington Raceway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and Homestead, Miami. Then I found this an interesting bit. He added that the spring attendance at the Homestead, Miami race was going to be a big determiner as to whether that South Florida track remains on that list. I'm sorry, how many years did we have the season finale at Homestead, Miami? We had it there for what, almost 20 years, right?
A lot of our YouTube viewers call this Saturday School and label me as professor. Here's where if I had one of those big ruler sticks, I would be beating it over the desk as hard as I could and shattering it into toothpicks. If you put Homestead back into the championship slot, your attendance will immediately go this way.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it dropped is because you took it out of the spot.
The reason you see it dropping is because you took it out of the playoffs.
Yeah. But if you don't move it back to Homestead, you have no brain cells and you have no will to push this sport even further ahead, way further ahead than where it is right now. If you don't put the championship race at Darlington.
Oh, yeah.
That would be classic storybook right there.
We've said
end
this.
It there.
We've said this many, many times. You and I have had the opportunity to do PA at Darlington twice.
Yep.
We had the opportunity to be PA on the last championship weekend held at Homestead, Miami. The excitement level at Homestead, Miami, especially for the Cup Series race, but for all 3 nights, was off the charts.
It was eye-opening in an impressive way.
And then we saw at Darlington, the last of the 2 years that we were there, 2019, what we lovingly term as the 24 Hours of Darlington.
Yeah.
That was a sellout race that Labor Day weekend. It was sold out for that Sunday evening.
And at 2:15 in the morning, right before the checkered flag fell,
95% were still there.
Yeah. Every bit of it.
We went through a 4-hour rain delay before we could even drop the green flag, and 95% of the people that bought tickets stayed through a 4-hour rain delay and stuck through a race that ended at for all intents and purposes, 2:30 in the morning Eastern time.
I recall hearing Dave Moody on the MRN radio because I had the MRN main channel to where I could hear what they were saying off air and on air.
Mm-hmm.
I recall him saying, "It's this early in the morning, boys, and I've never seen a crowd at a racetrack like this after midnight."
From MRN.
After midnight.
Those guys have been doing it at many more tracks than what Matt and I have.
Yeah.
They ought to know.
We're at 4, and the prospects are there. How big they are, don't know yet. Prospects are there. That list is going to possibly could possibly grow substantially.
We're hoping
next year.
I am not in a position to talk about it yet.
Hopefully.
But I hope to.
Keyword hopefully.
Steve Phelps then gave his closing remarks, which I will quote them all. Quote, "We are going to continue to be bold and innovative in everything that we do. Not just the race schedule, but everything that we do to drive this sport forward. The only way you will grow is to be bold and innovative in the decisions that are made, and we're going to do that." Now, to some extent, I'll agree. Because if you continue to do the same thing that you've been doing, you're always going to get what you've gotten. I understand that.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. So, yes, I understand. You have to try little things. But again, when you've got something that is working, that is a nuts and bolts sort of thing, stop messing with it.
Or a microphone issue.
Yeah. He continued, quote, "I've said this at every single one of these states of the sport. This is my 7th year saying this, and I'll say it this year, next year, and the following years, which is the best days at NASCAR are not behind us. They are ahead of us, and I believe that to be true. I want to believe that to be true, too. I do.
Let me see, and this is by no means, let me put this disclaimer out there first. This is by no means any type of a political endorsement or whatever. But let me see if I can do my best recreation of that meme that's on social media from the vice presidential debate where J.D. Vance looks like, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I mean, what did we just get done talking about when it came to the massive expansion that we saw in the 80s and the 1990s?
Yes.
Right now, those are the golden days of NASCAR.
And it's going to be hard to pass them.
Yes, it will. Your television ratings were higher then than they are now. And I get it. Television viewership has changed. I understand that is a part of it. But at the same time, we have seen a drop-off in the television ratings. We have seen a drop-off in the attendance. Number of sellouts notwithstanding, the amount of people that actually show up at a race has changed because we are now dropping the number of seats that are available in the grandstands, for example.
Yep.
But you get specific tracks that just either they're so close or they are sellouts just about every time NASCAR goes there. Talladega is one of them. We just talked about Darlington.
Yep.
The excitement level for Darlington is off the chart. Right now, it's the same thing for North Wilkesboro. But there are some tracks where it is just flat lackluster. And I hate to put them on the chopping block, but I'm going to put Bristol squarely on that chopping block.
Bristol and Texas, if they want to.
Yeah, Texas is another one. Yep. But they're far from the only ones.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to believe that better days are ahead. But again, we got to get our heads screwed on straight somewhere down the line.
And show me that you want the better days to be ahead by making the better changes to make it better, not staying status quo, not fixing your officiating issue, not fixing the other issues with these cars that your drivers have been begging you to fix.
But you're going and fixing stuff that doesn't need to be fixed.
Thank you.
And that needs to stop.
Bingo.
Fix what needs to be fixed. And don't kid yourself on it. That's the other problem. We often get to the point where we feel like, and he said it, we don't feel like there's a problem with the officiating. Do you not really? Maybe it's something you ought to look at a little more closely.
When we're going to, when we're riding down the elevator at Talladega, some of the white shirts, call them that, they're in the back of the elevator, and you've got some fans that get on and say, man, I'd love to have your job. And Tim Berman says out of his mouth, be careful what you wish for.
That came out of a NASCAR official's mouth.
That came out of a series director's mouth.
Think about that.
And you're like, huh?
Yeah.
No.
Matt and I just kind of threw glances at each other, and we both knew better than to say one word. But boy, that look that he and I gave each other was so telling.
The ones that can see us on YouTube Live, this was my reaction.
Yep. That was it.
Whew.
All right. On to some other news. Of course, we just talked about what happened in the final laps. We're not going to go over the details of what happened at the Cup Series in Martinsville. If you want them, go back and check out Cross Flags, available right now on CRN Live on YouTube. The aftermath, interesting. Wednesday, just before we recorded the podcast, we learned of the penalties. Fines for Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, and Bubba Wallace to the tune of $100,000 each. Each team lost 50 championship points as well. And NASCAR announced one race suspensions for the Trackhouse Racing team executive Tony Lunders, Reed competition director, crew chief Philip Surgeon, and spotter Brandon McReynolds, Richard Childress Racing team executive Keith Rodden, competition director, crew chief Justin Alexander, spotter Brandon Benish, and 2311 team executive Dave Rogers, along with crew chief Robert Booty Barker and spotter Freddie Kraft. So that means that Booty Barker's last race as a crew chief was actually last weekend when it was planned to be this weekend, because he's been booted upstairs, to pardon the pun, at 2311 beginning next year. Well, Richard Childress Racing and Trackhouse Racing announced almost immediately they were appealing the penalties. What hurt them to start was that 2311 decided against any appeal. Oops. Considering the final race of the 2024 season is tomorrow, the appeal hearing was expedited. When it was heard on Thursday, Trackhouse Racing was up first. I'll give you 3 guesses as to what the appeals panel did, and the first 2 don't count. Tony Stewart said this a couple of years ago. Filing an appeal, really almost a worthless move. And it was.
Yep.
They denied the appeal. All the penalties stand. So after that result, Richard Childress Racing said, yeah, we'll withdraw. We'll leave all the appeals to stand.
Yep.
Then there's NASCAR's Elton Sawyer. He's talking about it after the fact. Said of the penalties, quote, we looked at the most recent penalty that we had written for an infraction that was very similar and wanted to ramp this one up. We did. We did that in a way that included team leadership, and this is something that we felt we wanted to get our point across, that is a responsibility of all of us in order to uphold the integrity of the sport. Okay, again, I can kind of see where, in a way, you're coming from, but you want this thing to have teeth? Park the car.
Park the driver.
And don't give them a waiver for a playoff.
You wouldn't even, don't even give being the last race of the year. This is how, like I said earlier, this is how you send the message. Deterrence.
But let's say this happens. I'm not gonna call Daytona or Atlanta because those are slightly different rules. So then we head out west. Phoenix, Vegas. Pick one of those 2. Let's say this situation happens in race 3 or 4 of next year. Don't give them a playoff waiver.
The aspect of it happening in race 3 or 4 is there, but it's less likely in my
I get it, but
yeah.
I'm throwing the scenario out there that if this happened in race number 1, if it happened in the Daytona 500, in some way, shape, or form that you could prove beyond just me getting on the back of your bumper and drafting and pushing you to the win so that I could finish second. Okay? If there was some massive conspiracy to make sure that we got a person, one particular driver, to hit the start-finish line first and claim the win in the Daytona 500, and we can claim it a conspiracy, every single driver involved in said conspiracy needs to be parked for race number 2, which is Atlanta next year, and they need to have their playoff waivers pulled and never reinstated.
Right.
That has teeth. That wakes up people. That wakes up the teams. That wakes up the crew chiefs, the spotters, the competition directors, and the drivers.
You eliminate playoff outside of a competition-related injury. Let's define it as that. Outside of a competition-related injury, you eliminate playoff waivers, period.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a medical situation, I get it.
Yeah. You get that waiver because you got injured in competition.
Or, and I'm going to put this in there because we saw this earlier this year with, who was it? Carlos Sainz. Emergency appendectomy.
That too, or an emergency health situation that was outside of your control.
Yes.
Non-injury related.
There you go.
You get your waiver. Outside of that, you eliminate the waiver prospect, period. You eliminate it altogether. That's it.
Let's see. Let's talk about some other stuff here because, again, we got a guest coming up here in about 20 minutes, and we got a whole lot on the table that I know that we're going to be carrying over till next week. Some of the other stuff here mentioned on the show recently, Team Amerivet using the number 50 that they took over from the now defunct Money Team entry. Boxer Floyd Mayweather had been involved in. They got plans to roll into 2025 with more of a plan to run, let's just say, a number of races. They still haven't detailed how many. They also really haven't detailed who exactly is going to drive for them next year, but what they're going to do is test the waters this weekend. They're going to put that car on the track, and it's on the Cup Series entry list for Phoenix for tomorrow. They've got Xfinity Series veteran racer Jeb Burton behind the wheel with sponsorship from Luxido Immersive Experiences. It's only the second race that the team is attempting to qualify for this year, following May's Coca-Cola 600. Gives Burton a chance that he hasn't had a Cup start since 2019. He's actually got 35 Cup Series starts to his credit. No top fives, no top 10 results. In fact, his best finish in a Cup Series came back in 2015 at the Fall Martinsville race, running for, remember these guys, kids? BK Racing. He finished 27th. In the years of getting his Cup Series starts, he raced for BK Racing, Rick Ware Racing, and Go Fast Motorsports, none of which will be confused with front-running teams. So Jeb Burton getting a chance in a car that has, well, kind of like the three teams we just mentioned, questionable heritage.
In final practice yesterday, position 38, J.J. Yaley, 126.37. Now, let me remind you, the person in first was at 132.48. J.J. Yaley.
6 miles an hour off.
126.37.
Ouch.
39th, Chad Fincham, MBM car, 125.98.
Getting worse.
40th, car number 50, Jeb Burton. 119.63. You are 13 miles per hour off the pace of the leader.
I was going to say 15. You said 132.
132.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. 119, 13 miles per hour, kids.
Oh.
He will be 5 laps down by lap 3.
Ouch. You better figure out a way to do some speed into that thing, boys and girls. I mean, I'm rooting for you, Team Amerivet, but that's a bad start. That's a bad start. Been 2 decades since Martin Truex Jr. made his Cup Series debut. You may or may not remember who he was driving for at the time. He debuted in the 2005 Daytona 500 for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, behind the wheel of their number 1 car. He sported a logo that was pretty much new to NASCAR at that time, for all intents and purposes, Bass Pro Shops. That look that he debuted that day will be on the Joe Gibbs Racing number 19 tomorrow in the season finale. His final Cup Series race as a full-time driver. He and the team are hoping it's going to turn out better than the result in the first race when he had to park the car due to engine issues. What's the difference? You got a big Bass Pro Shops logo on the hood, just like you would expect. It's a very nice, deep red color all the way down the car instead of the black that we have gotten used to over the years. Really, really sharp-looking car. Really sharp-looking car. Yep. Our producer, John's favorite driver. Not sure who he's going to go with next. Maybe he'll throw it up there in the chat if he gets to figure it out before the end of the show. And before we take a break, since coming in as owner of Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, Brad Keselowski, not really afraid to make the changes in the organization. One of the changes he's got to deal with is his own crew chief, as Matt McCall's not going to be back with the 6 car or the organization in 2025. The team released a statement that said, quote, "We want to thank Matt for his dedicated efforts over the last 3 seasons, his role in the success that we have had, and we wish him well in future endeavors." While it is not confirmed at this time, it appears McCall might be headed over to Spire Motorsports.
What are you going on?
That's the question, ain't it? I'm just telling you who people are saying that's what they're hearing. Oh, the court battle between 2311 and Front Row Motorsports on one side, NASCAR on the other. We'll tell you the latest on that when we come back here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Coupe de Ville Wings is...
And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
I know we've been very cup heavy this time around, but we'll get to a couple of other things here before this segment is done, and then we'll be joined by a guest coming up in our final segment. He'll be on the phone. So back to 2311, their legal case against NASCAR, along with Front Row Motorsports. Monday had the latest hearing in the antitrust case the two teams have against NASCAR. Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin of 2311 were in attendance. Bob Jenkins from Front Row Motorsports on hand as well. Their attorney, noted sports antitrust lawyer Jeffrey Kessler, said at the time, quote, "We do not challenge the entire charter agreement. We just want to return to status quo. We're not seeking a 7 to 14-year argument. Let us operate under the terms they offered for the duration of this court case and race under the charter terms for the duration of this case." As it stands, awaiting the ruling from the court throughout the middle of the week, NASCAR said that it does plan to run with 32 active charters in 2025 as opposed to the usual 36. In other words, we're eliminating the 2 that Front Row Motorsports have this year and the 2 that 2311 have this year. 8 open cars in a weekly 40-car field, assuming you actually get all 40 entries. Front Row and 2311, again, each have 2. Both of them have deals on hand to buy a Stewart-Haas Racing charter, 1 each. But NASCAR said that they're not going to recognize those sales while litigation is ongoing. We figured that part out too, right? Court's ruling came down yesterday. The judge ruled against 2311 Front Rows. The judge said at the time, quote, "At this time, plaintiffs have not met their burden as required for a preliminary injunction. Should circumstances change, plaintiffs may file a renewed motion for a preliminary injunction." During the State of the Sport address, NASCAR's official position was, predictably, no comment. Ongoing litigation, I get it. The judge further noted in his ruling that the team's hurdle that they didn't jump over was to, quote, "demonstrate that irreparable injury is likely in the absence of an injunction. Showing the possibility of irreparable harm is not sufficient." Considering their performance in the 2024 season, he said he felt it likely that they could make all the races in the 2025 season, to which 2311 Racing said that their partnership agreements that to be fulfilled, their teams did have to run all of the races in a season. Plus, apparently, there's also an out in Tyler Reddick's contract that states if his car does not have a charter, he could terminate his contract and move on to another team. That, to me, is actually the bigger problem.
Yeah, that's definitely the bigger problem, but I don't see that.
I don't see him doing it, but again, you've got that opening. Yeah. It is an interesting clause in the contract. The judge went on to say that he did note that the new charter agreement, NASCAR noted this, that the new charter agreement and the new money split actually favors the teams much more. Phelps said, quote, "I won't go into what the money split looks like." Of course not. They never go into numbers. "But I will say that the amount of money now puts the race teams starting in 2025 as the single largest beneficiary of our media deal. We did that because the race teams were upside down financially. Previously, that favored the tracks. And we kind of detailed that some years ago on this. It favored the tracks because otherwise the only thing that the tracks really had money-wise coming in was money from ticket sales."
Right. But here's how you shut this whole argument up. From agreement to agreement. Let's don't say from year to year. Let's go from agreement to agreement.
Okay.
Show it in black and white, clear as day, what numbers were for one agreement versus numbers to new agreement.
Yeah.
Show the increase or decrease, whatever it may be. Show it. Then you shut this whole argument up.
Yeah, because they are getting more money per year.
Yeah.
The contract this time around is for a fewer number of years. The deal that they had with Fox was a 10-year deal. This new current agreement that goes into effect for 2025 is a 7-year deal.
Right.
But it's for more money per year than what the 10-year deal was. So
show it to everybody to where they shut up.
Yeah. Make them shut up. That's the key. Oh, Xfinity Series post-race shenanigans often happen after short track races. We talked a little bit about this. We hinted to do it in the recap a little more than an hour ago, actually. At Martinsville, Almirola won the race, but the battle behind him caused ruffled feathers. Almirola is not eligible for the series title, nonetheless kept all of his challengers at bay, claims the win. He held off 2 drivers who actually needed wins to advance to the Final Four. Chandler and Sammy Smith, not related. Chandler and the defending Xfinity Series champion Cole Custer got into a battle for position late in the race. Custer knowing that should either Smith claim the win, he would be out of the playoffs. So he got into a battle. And that battle got Chandler Smith a little bit hot under the collar. Where on pit road after the race, Smith walked over to Custer's car. The two began to exchange words. Got a little bit more and more heated before Smith threw something that resembled a punch at Custer. Some people call it a slap. I don't know. Custer said he was able to deflect the blow for the most part, but he did say that it made contact with his upper left cheek. Afterwards, Smith, claiming Custer had been roughing him up all year, said, quote, "I'm in a must-win situation. He is not at that moment, and he didn't even try to make the corner. Granted, I moved him up the lap before, but I'm beating his bumper off for 5 laps before that. I gave him grace before I finally shipped him, and then he doesn't even try to give me the chance going into turn 1. It is what it is." Custer, for his part, said in the post-race interview he didn't see how the two weren't even because of their season-long battles, and he was going to put it behind him as he was looking forward to defend his title. Then during the week, he kind of reiterated that he wasn't worried about what might happen and that his team was preparing to vie for the 2024 title. As for Chandler Smith, NASCAR has fined him $10,000 for violating the NASCAR member code of conduct when it comes to hitting Custer, which might make you wonder what happened to the whole boys have at it situation. Oh, yeah, that was fairly quickly addressed in the State of the Sport address. Apparently, NASCAR is doing away with boys have at it.
Lord have mercy, help.
Can of worms open. These drivers, they're going to get into a situation where they are going to have a temper or two.
A little.
It's going to happen.
A little.
I want to deal with 2 more things before we get done. First up, Formula One news. Formula One's Grand Prix Drivers Association, driver union for all intents and purposes, has made an official request to the FIA and specifically its president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem. Treat us like adults. Oh, I can't wait to get back to this. This, of course, is all because of Max Verstappen's feud with the FIA when he used a swear word during an FIA press conference, and he got a penalty, a community service penalty for all intents and purposes. The Grand Prix Drivers Association sent a letter to Sulayem and urged him to, quote, "consider his own tone and language when talking to our member drivers or indeed about them, whether in a public forum or otherwise," unquote. Not only was Verstappen penalized, but so was Charles Leclerc when he used a swear word during his post-race press conference in Mexico City. He was fined 10,000 euros. The letter from the GDPA stated, quote, "our members are adults. They don't need to be given instructions via the media about matters as trivial as the wearing of jewelry and underpants." The jewelry comment relates to a 2022 mandate about how much and what jewelry would be allowed when the drivers were racing. This is before Ben Sulayem became the FIA president, by the way. Lewis Hamilton then showed up at the very next race in the next FIA press conference wearing 3 watches, several bracelets, basically a Mr. T necklace starter kit, and rings on each finger and both thumbs. Okay, you're going overboard to prove a point. I get that. You're not wearing that during the race.
No.
As for the underwear, that had actually more to do with safety than even the jewelry comment, because several drivers were wearing or were not wearing rules-compliant underwear under their fire suits when they were in practice, qualifying, or racing. That I get, because you want to make sure that the drivers are as safe as possible. The jewelry could get hot if you happen to be in a fire. That's a safety concern, but it's not the biggest one. The fire retardant things that you wear, that's huge. So I don't have a problem with the FIA doing that.
Right.
But here's the deal, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again right here and right now. You want to be treated like an adult? Act like it.
Yep.
Again, in the heat of battle, when you're doing 150, 200 miles per hour on a racetrack and somebody does something stupid and you just happen to say a word, I get it. On the other hand, in the situation like Matt and I are in right now, where we have microphones in front of us and cameras in front of us, we know better than to use certain words. It's not that hard.
Correctamundo.
So if you want to be treated like an adult, act like one. And the final note of today, before we get our guest. Let's talk about this situation here. Back to NASCAR.
T-Box is yours, West.
Yes. NASCAR has a rule about the whole media deal, not like Formula One, too. Ty Majeski knows that now, as the Thor Sport racing driver is poorer by $12,500 after skipping out on Championship Media Day on Tuesday. Well, why did he miss out on Tuesday? Think about Tuesday for a moment. What happened on Tuesday? In the country, as a whole. What happened on Tuesday? Ring any bells? Election Day? That's right. We were choosing the leader of the country for the next 4 years. We chose who was going to be inaugurated as the president on that day, and Ty Majeski wanted to vote. And to do so in person, he had to travel to his home in Wisconsin. He was asked about it and said, quote, obviously it's been a whirlwind for sure. Like I said, I'm really focused on the race Friday night. I felt like I needed to do my duty as a U.S. citizen and vote. My team owners and I, Duke, Rhonda, Allison, we all made the decision to exercise that right. Did you know it was Media Day? Quote, yeah, we certainly knew about it. I didn't specifically have much communication with NASCAR prior. I let everybody internally at Thor Sport handle those conversations prior to not being there Tuesday. So I feel like they knew our position. It's kind of unprecedented. This has never happened before. Election Day. Everybody knew it was Election Day for a long time. It's unfortunate circumstances for everybody. I don't think anybody wants to be put in that position, but we have to have a free country to race in, and that's just part of being a U.S. citizen. So I wanted to exercise that right. I didn't know I was going to be Championship 4 until a few days prior to that. I was always, in my whole life, been an Election Day vote guy. I've never done an absentee ballot. Wanted to make sure that my vote counted. So when he was asked if he was going to appeal the penalty, he replied quickly, quote, that's our intent. Yes. I don't have much time here, so I'm just going to basically point this part of it out.
And now Steve's turn.
As he noted, Election Day has been known for a very long time. For the longest time in the history of the United States of America, not every year, but for the longest time now, we have put Election Day every 4 years for the president as the first Tuesday in the month of November. It's been that way for a very long time. Did you realize that last year, Championship Media Day, Championship 4 Media Day, was on a Thursday?
Yep.
When was it in 2022? Oh, that's right. It was a Thursday. When was it in 2021? It was a Thursday. Somewhere down the line, some idiot at NASCAR didn't look at a calendar and changed it to Tuesday. Election Day. No, NASCAR. This one's your fault. If I'm on the appeals panel, I'm rescinding the fine.
Immediately.
Plain and simple. Got our guest coming up here next. Hope you'll stick around here. We'll let Matt take over for the most part. I'm sure I'll have some questions. Stick around. But yeah, we got a guest coming up here. An open wheel racing driver. That's all I'm going to give you. That's next right here on the Championship Racing Network.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Talladega Short Track.
Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Final segment today, all about having a guest, specifically on the phone. And for that, we turn it over to Matt.
This fella right here was brought to my attention by Miss Debbie, a mutual friend of ours, and she was giving me his information and bio and places that he's raced. We've got with us right now Connor Willis from Joliet, Illinois. He's an open-wheel racer, 17-year-old open-wheel racer. Connor, how are you this morning, bud?
How's it going? Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, absolutely. So for everyone that's watching us via YouTube Live and listening to us, who is Connor Willis and how did he get his start in racing?
Yeah, so my name is Connor Willis. I'm a 17-year-old professional race car driver, and this is my 5th year in racing. I started in go-karts, did 2 years of that, progressed to car racing, and now I'm currently driving all over the world internationally. And just this last weekend, I came back from Silverstone International Raceway down in the UK, and the biggest Formula Ford race in the world. And so I am pursuing my dream, race car driving, and not stopping.
Hey, that's the best way to do it right there. Keep in pursuit of it and keep that visor down and keep digging. But how many racetracks have you competed on all over not just in the United States and North America, but all over the world?
So my home track is the Autobahn Country Club, and I've spent a lot of time here. I know this track like the back of my hand. And this is kind of like my birthplace of my career. And so I have a lot of track time here. And getting out, I've gone to Brands Hatch, Lennon Hill, and Silverstone in the UK. And then in the US, I've been to New Jersey and Charlotte Motor Speedway and Daytona. And those were in karts. The last 2 were in karts racing. And that's about it. Yeah.
So, Matt, you led off.
Go ahead.
One thing that kind of hit me, you just said you've been racing for about 5 years now. It's 12 years old, which, again, is young. I get it. But we have heard a lot of people that get racing as young as like 4 and 5 years old. What was kind of the progression that got you into the point where you wanted to begin to start racing?
So it almost started as a bit of a hobby for me, but it quickly turned into a dream and a career. And so it was a little intimidating coming in with these experienced drivers, and I was a newbie. And so I'm racing against drivers that have, yes, like 10, 15 years of experience, and I'm on my 4th or 5th. And so I think I've always had that competitive nature in me, and racing and motorsports is what I enjoyed. And so combining those was this racing career. And so I wanted to learn, and I wanted to pursue this dream. And so I kept practicing, put the work in, and ask a lot of questions. I think questions in this field is super beneficial to talk to the people with experience, and with that experience, obtain that knowledge from the questions. And so I think being around the racing atmosphere, you have the resources needed to excel quickly. It's just about how you use them. And so I'm trying to maximize those resources and then keep accelerating at a really fast level, because that F1 dream is I can't miss 1 year, because the age, I am 17 and I'm stuck in F1 in the lower 20s, upper teens now with Ali Behrman at 18.
Yeah.
And so I definitely don't have any years to skip. So I got to make my years valuable while I can.
So what do you consider your main series right now?
So my main series right now is F1600s. That's what I did. My last 3 races were in F1600s. But next year, right now, yeah, that would be the main series. Okay. But next year was kind of undecided, and really looking for sponsorships, trying to market myself better through social media and the different marketing aspects to see what I can find financially for upcoming series. But just 3 weeks ago, I did do a radical race as well. But the main committed series I'm into right now is, 1600s, Formula Fords.
For the ones that don't know about the F1600s, tell us a little bit about those cars and what they consist of.
So the F1600s, I would almost say, is the start to open wheel racing. Lots of current F1 drivers have started or progressed through F1600s, and this is a great car that offers only mechanical grip and that has no downforce. So the wings you see on these cars in Formula One and all the aerodynamic aspects is eliminated. These cars are all mechanical grips, the tires to the ground. The 4 contact passes that the tires make to the ground is all the grip you have. And so I think these cars are great for learning and developing through the open wheel aspects, because going into the downforce series, you will have a really good understanding of the mechanical grip, and it will make you better throughout the rest of your career. But these cars, they slide around, they understeer and oversteer, and lots of different characteristics that a driver has to learn and use to their benefit to progress into this career. So I feel like it's a really good starting area for open wheel cars.
Seems an unusual move. I mean, we talk about here in the United States of America, when it comes to motorsports, NASCAR is king, stock cars are king, basically. And for somebody to have the ambition here from the United States of America to want to get into Formula One does seem like a lofty and certainly worthy goal, but it does seem a little bit unusual. How did you end up zeroing in on open wheel racing and wanting to get into Formula One as your ultimate career goal?
So as a kid, I've always watched Formula One, and I think that spark of Formula One relative to NASCAR and Indycar, the spark of Formula One was just a little bit more there for me. And so people call me crazy when I say I want to be an F1 driver, but the thing is, there's 20 drivers, and drivers have to fill those spots, and so why can't I be one? If I put in the work, the practice, and the effort with the right areas and doing the right things, I feel like it is possible. And people call me crazy, but it just gives me motivation to try harder.
No,
and,
I like it.
So
me personally, if I were you, I'd be wearing a shirt that says "Why not me" on it.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great conversation thing in the U.S. because I go around saying I want to do it, and people call me crazy. But yeah, exactly. Like, why not me? And it's a dream, and I want to make it a reality. I don't want to be just an F1 driver. I want to be an F1 world champ, and I feel like those big goals are really important into progressing in your careers, because you have the big goals, and then you have like the medium goals and the short-term goals, and all of it's kind of building to the ultimate dream. And I want to make this dream a reality. I have big aspirations, and we've progressed relatively quickly for what we've done, and so I feel like the potential and the progression is there. It's all just going to come down to the last little bit, the last tenth on track, the last marketing and sponsorship off track.
That radical race that you ran here recently, how did that go, and how much different was that car versus the Formula 1600 car for you adapting to it?
So adapting to it was definitely an interesting thing to do, because it was a very funny race day. I actually got a text at like 11:12 during lunchtime. Yo, do you want to drive this radical today? I was like, no way, I'm on the way.
Have helmet, will travel.
Sitting at the table, exactly. I was sitting at the table eating like my lunch, and I was like, I'm on the way. So it was nuts. I went down to the racetrack, Autobahn, and like 40 minutes away from my house. I got here like relatively like half an hour before qualifying. And so as soon as I got here, hopped out the car, I was running around, got the suit on. I was like, wait, I'm driving a downforce car. I don't really do this. And so I kind of had to prepare myself mentally for the day and weigh out the like risk versus reward scenario. But I was going to do qualifying. We did it. We qualified third, our first ever radical qualifying. So I think that's something to be proud of. We were on old tires, which kind of hindered us a little bit, but just because it's the last minute, really couldn't switch off of it. And so developing to the downforce aspect, qualifying I used as my practice session. And it was very interesting because we're heading over 100 miles an hour through corners, and just doing that, it's like you're driving a roller coaster, and that thrill you're controlling in your own hands and feet. And so it's a really cool feeling. And then going on to qualifying third, we progressed onto the race, and we finished second. We actually got to lead for a couple laps once the tires fell off. It was hard to keep up. But yeah, to lead my first ever radical race against the national world champion in the radicals was in that race as well, and to pass him and battle with him was just fantastic. It was a great time.
Nice.
When you arrived there, was there any question from, or any kind of sideways glances from some of the other drivers thinking, okay, we've never seen him before, he's never been in a radical car before, we don't know whether to trust him or not?
There was, yes, there was. There's always kind of the outsiders and then the other drivers that wonder. And so there was lots of that. But actually, it's kind of funny because it was so last minute. People didn't really know it was me in the car because the original driver of the car has a black helmet like myself.
Oh, okay.
And so it was funny because until like the race happened, when on the live stream they were all like, Connor Willis qualified third instead of the original car owner's name. Everyone was really surprised, and so I think that's what really turned the switch.
Right.
And drivers weren't really prepared for that. And so that was a kind of funny aspect I was told after the race. But definitely some glances of people that knew about it were definitely the competitors were eyeing me. Yeah.
And you had said this before. You ask a lot of questions when you're out there on the race paddock. You get around a lot of these other drivers. Did you have much of a chance to talk with some of the other drivers before between qualifying and the race?
So I didn't have a chance after qualifying, but I did talk to the owner of the car, which is a previous, I think it's 2020. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's 2020. He's a radical champion in the 1340 class. And so I was talking to him quite a bit about just like different scenarios, starting third, like old tires, how they're going to drop off, how's the downforce going to handle like the tires, because these were new aspects I didn't really not knowledgeable of. And so I did have a lot of talk within the team, but not necessarily outside of the team. Although after the race is when everyone knew it was me in the car when I hopped out on the podium. And then so I had lots of conversations with drivers then, and I actually, with Jordan Missig, the radical champion, we were comparing data to kind of learn and help me kind of understand downforce a little bit better and see where the time I was losing towards him. Yeah.
We got one of our YouTube viewers, Connor, that has a question for you that he wanted to pose. Down the line, would you have any potential interest in going over into stock cars, specifically NASCAR?
So I would. I think NASCAR is an awesome field, and I've not really drove anything quite like it, and so I'm not really too knowledgeable of the that like racing aspect. And my thing has always been left and right, downforce, fast, open wheel type of cars. But definitely, if the opportunity arose, if the sponsorships were there, and that route opened up, I think it's a great field with great drivers, well competitive, well diverse classes. And as a driver, you can really develop through there, and there's good publicity and stuff through that. And so definitely, if that opportunity arose, I would not be opposed to it. It's great series. Yeah.
All right, the last thing I've got for you before time runs out on us, it's really a two-part question. First part of the question is, out of the tracks that you've competed on some pretty legendary racetracks. Which track, when you've walked through the gates of it, has been that pinch me moment for you, like, I'm here? That's part A. Part B is, whether it be North America, Europe, Asia, wherever, what is your bucket list track that you want to hit next?
So I got that feeling. I know that the spark, as soon as I walked on the Silverstone, this past weekend, I think it was really humbling and a little bit emotional to me, because I think this has always been a dream of mine, and the racing on an F1 circuit with that dream of being an F1 driver, with racing former F1 drivers too. And so just that feeling of like, I'm doing this. This is the progression that it's going to take. I like walking, like I was doing the track walk and everything, and like it was emotional. I got like the feelings, the spark in my stomach, and it was just, yeah, Silverstone was definitely the track, because I've stayed at that track before in the hotel there, and I've always had the aspiration to drive on it, and I think driving on it just fulfilled that the aspiration, and that feeling was on another level. It was dreams coming true, and I definitely wanted to perform the best I could in that situation. And so that was a really like heartfelt moment for me.
Fantastic.
And then part B.
Yep.
Part B would definitely be Monaco. Monaco has always been a dream of mine. I love watching that race. And just like the walls, I've never raced on a street track, so that's also like a bucket list. But Monaco is not just a street track. That is like the street track.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
With the water there, with the yachts, and with the atmosphere, I think just that atmosphere and having like my family and friends there, being able to watch me, that's just definitely a dream track of mine that I don't think any other track can really compare to.
I think that's the best way to end it right there, Connor. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Absolutely.
We wish you nothing but the best, and we'll ask one thing of you. When you do make it big in Formula One, just remember us, okay?
Sounds good. Awesome, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
bud.
Connor Willis. Best of luck here in the future. We'll be keeping an eye on you as you go through, and looking forward to hearing much more about Connor. If we had more time, I would have asked this, but we know about the situation at F1. There's that really limited number of seats, and we're seeing a whole lot of drivers that have been in the F1 ladder moving over to IndyCar. But I get the funny feeling he seems to have a really good head on his shoulders. I get the funny feeling he's going to advance as far up as he can and whatever he can.
No doubt.
And,
no doubt.
It wouldn't surprise me. F1, IndyCar, good head on his shoulders. 17 years old.
Yep.
Good night almighty. Ugh. Wish I was that dedicated at 17. Wow. All right. That'll wrap it up for us. We're going to be back on Wednesday with Crossed Flags. We'll bring you another episode of that. And, of course, we'll be back next Saturday. We'll detail all of the events from this championship weekend, and we'll get you ready for the NHRA as they prepare to crown their 2024 champions next weekend as well. It's a lot of stuff to get to. And, well, we left a lot of stuff on the table from this week. So I imagine we'll revisit some of that as well.
Yep.
All of it?
Yep.
Probably not. Some of it? Almost definitely. Y'all have a great week. Join us on Wednesday for Crossed Flags. Don't forget about that. Subscribe down below if you're on CRN Live. And don't forget to hit that little bell, too. That's going to remind you of when we post something new, anything new up there. All right? Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing this weekend. We'll talk to you Wednesday and next Saturday with Crossed Flags and the next edition of the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.